Hi and welcome to my wee channel, Wandering Kilt. I'll start by being honest. I didn't wake up in the morning and decide, I'm going down to Cumnock to film today. There, I've said it. I was actually travelling down to Ayr on the Ayr Road on one of my filming trips, and around that time I drove into Cumnock. I was needing a coffee, so could I find a cafe, one here that sells great coffee, or could I find a Greggs? I like to keep my options open that way. Suffice it to say that I did find the aforementioned Greggs, and as I walked round the town I thought, wow, there's some nice buildings here. So I headed back to the car and got the camera out. I tend to let the camera decide if a place is nice. So to Cumnock. I've been through here loads of times, but I can't say I've really stopped very often. My knowledge of Cumnock was really down to football, as in junior football, Cumnock 11, Auchinleck Talbot 0. It's one of the fiercest rivalries, not just in football, but in sport in general. So here's a history bit. People have lived in the area for over 5,000 years. There is evidence of Bronze Age settlements, and no doubt the Romans must have been here too. Historical records date back to 1275, and a church was believed to be in the town square at this time. Cumnock was granted a Borough of Barony title in 1509, allowing the town to hold markets and annual fairs. In 1775, a bridge was built across the Glesnock stream that allowed a better route to New Cumnock and indeed to Ayr itself. At this time, local occupations were hand weaving, probably with a hand loom set up in their house, shoemaking, tanning and dyeing. Later mining exposed seams of graphite that in turn led to an increase in local pottery. This lasted almost a century. The next big thing was snuff boxes. Snuff being a powdered tobacco that is sniffed up your nose, and it's just as addictive as smoking, but much posher. To store your snuff, you would have to have it in a sealed little box to keep it dry. So this, along with the local pottery, which was the so-called motto-ware pottery, which had wee poems and things written on it. So they tended to be a big employer in the area at the time. The railways reached Cumnock in 1850, further cementing its importance in the area. Now, up till the 1600s, most people lived in cottages, farming or weaving or making things to sell, like leather items and such. It's thought that travelling salesmen brought more than wares with them, the plague, and with it the death sentence for many locals. The 17th century saw the separation of both Old and New Cumnock, so I guess New Cumnock isn't that new after all. A school was established in 1625 thanks to a gift of £20 by Helen Lockhart. We take it for granted nowadays that is free education, but back in the day, education, if at all, was patchy, usually linked to churches and would be basic. Many people would be illiterate, and to give you an idea of that, I visited Culzean Castle and went down into the massive kitchen. The local guide pointed out, I think it was perhaps about 19 bells that were mounted up on the wall, linked to all the rooms by wire. Like the study, day room, library. You get the picture? Well, all the bells were labelled underneath, but every single bell had a different sound. Why, you might ask? Well, most of the below stairs people, that's servants to you and me, were unable to read and write properly, and they just memorised the sound of each bell to this corresponding room. Crazy. Though we turn our attention to football, Cumnock Juniors. The Knock formed in 1912 and they played at Townhead Park. 3 times winners of the Scottish Junior Cup, 78-79, 88-89 and 2023 season. Well done them. Mining played an important part in the success and ultimate failure really of Cumnock. It was quite piecemeal to begin with. In the 1800s, small mines worked until they were spent. The Ayr to Cronbury railway line in 1872 allowed coal to be moved cheaply around, so miners' rows started to appear as more houses were needed for the influx of men to work in the local pits. Labour firebrand Keir Hardie organised the union, and in 1886 the Scottish Miners' Federation was formed. At this time, the mine workers lived in tied houses. That meant if you lost your job for whatever reason, 24 hours later your belongings were out in the street. Not great, but even worse when you consider most people had large families back then. 8 or 9 children was far from uncommon. When the pits were nationalised in 1947, smaller pits fell by the wayside. The larger super pits like the Barony and Cumnock pits became the future. It's never a good idea to put all your eggs in one basket. And in the same way, it's never a good idea to be so dependent on a single employer. Many areas have found out this to their cost, how damaging it could be when they close. Ravenscraig and Motherwell, for instance, and British Leyland and Bathgate, and Whitburn Levi Jeans. When you have fathers and brothers, cousins, mothers and sisters, all directly employed by one sector, if it fails, it can absolutely crush a town. Cumnock realised this in the 1950s and 60s and tried bringing in jeans manufacturers, knitwear, trucks, carpet and shoemaking to the area. The miners' strike, however valiant, was the last stand, and in 1984 spelled the end for a few pits and indeed communities. It was cheaper to open cast the coal, as in some places it's less than 20 feet under the surface. So when you have people tunnelling hundreds of feet underground in cramped spaces, tragedy is never far away. And so it was on September the 7th, 1950, just up the road in New Cumnock at the Cumnock pit. Just after 7 p.m, as they were working, a large amount of liquefied peat leaked into the number 5 heading section. The liquid cascaded down the shaft, blocking the escape route for 135 men underground. After it stopped, 116 miners were cut off. 13 men close to the breach were unaccounted for. After 3 days of intensive rescue efforts, 116 men were safely brought to the surface. 87 sets of Sieb Gorman oxygen rebreathers helped to bring the men to the surface. Kinda like the things that the fire brigade use. Sadly, 13 men couldn't be saved, and their bodies were recovered some months later. So many pits had tragedies. This one captured the attention of the world's media and was later made into a film. As time goes by, more and more former mining areas forget their past. The pit workings go, as does the bings, many of them grassed over. Places like the Newton Grange National Mining Museum help keep the memory alive. I know New Cumnock is not Cumnock before you comment underneath, but it must have impacted the whole area. Anyway, I'll just keep quiet now and let you watch the rest of the film. Okay, let's get on with it. Well, that's it for Cumnock. It's certainly a place I've drove through many a time, but never actually stopped, and it's quite interesting, the history of the place. So can I just thank you again for watching. If you want to help the channel, you can always buy me a super thanks or subscribe and share the video with other people. Anyway, let's look at the big clock on the wall. I see that once again time has beaten us, so until next time, bye for now.